The day I pulled into my driveway after a double shift, I expected to collapse on my couch with a beer and some mindless TV. Instead, I found my front yard looking like a crime scene. My prized azaleas' 3 years of careful pruning were hacked to stubs, and a neon orange extension cord snaked across my lawn to a brand new metal gate where my wooden fence used to stand. Standing beside it, clipboard in hand, was my neighbor, Denise, grinning like she'd just won a reality show. She waved me over, her voice chirpy. Surprise. I fixed the eyesore. Now we've got shared access. I blinked, my brain struggling to process the scene. Denise had only moved into the fixer-upper next door 8 months ago, but she'd already made a name for herself with her improvements. She'd painted her house a blinding chartreuse and reported my mailbox for being too rustic. But this? She'd torn down my fence and replaced it with a gate she could unlock from her side. It's more neighborly this way, she said, gesturing to the gap like it was a community service project. Also, your fence was 6 inches over my property line. I checked the plat. My stomach twisted. I'm not a confrontational guy. I keep my yard neat, pay my bills, and mind my own business. But that smug nod, that assumption she could rewrite my property, lit a fuse I didn't know I had. I asked her straight, "You tore down my fence for a gate?" She shrugged, sipping her iced coffee. "It's a shared boundary. You didn't have the right to block it. Plus, it's easier for me to get to the alley now." The alley was a narrow strip behind our houses, barely used except by utility workers. My fence had been there for a decade, built by the previous owner with permits I'd double-checked when I bought the place. Denise's claims smelled like nonsense, but her confidence made me pause. I didn't argue. Instead, I went inside and pulled up the county's property records. The survey was clear. My fence was dead center on my land. Better yet, I found a quirk in Denise's loaded tiny, unclaimed sliver of land, about 8 feet wide, running along the alley. It had its own tax ID, overlooked during her purchase, and she hadn't paid taxes on it. It was slated for a county auction in 2 weeks. I sent Denise a polite email, attaching the survey and asking her to remove the gate and restore my fence. The next morning, I found my email printed out, crumpled, and stuffed in my mailbox with "Talk to my lawyer" scrawled in red marker. Denise didn't stop there. She strung fairy lights across the gate, hosted loud barbecues that spilled into my yard, and even parked her SUV halfway on my grass. When I asked her to move it, she laughed and said, "Lighten up, we're neighbors." I kept my cool, documenting every infraction. Then I went to the auction and bought that alley sliver for $89. While Denise was busy posting selfies in front of her gate, I was quietly becoming the owner of her shortcut. I didn't say a word. Instead, I hired a contractor to build a 7-foot cinder block wall along the sliver, right where her gate connected to the alley. The crew finished in a day, and when Denise got home, her jaw dropped. "What is this?" she shrieked, pounding on my door. I handed her the deed, folded neatly in an envelope. "That's my land," I said. "Your gate's on it. I'd appreciate it if you removed it." Her face turned the color of her house. She sputtered, then stormed off, vowing to sue. She tried. First, she called the city, claiming my wall violated some obscure drainage code. I showed the inspector my permits and photos of her redirecting runoff into my yard with her landscaping. He sighed and left. Then came the petty stuff. A pile of rotting mulch dumped on my porch, her sprinklers aimed at my windows all night. I cleaned it up, said nothing, and kept digging. That's when I struck gold. Denise's shed, a rickety eyesore she used for her vintage bike collection, sat on another forgotten parcella 5-foot strip from a botched title transfer in the 90s. It was owned by the county, headed for auction. I bought it for $143, gaining control of the ground under her shed. I sent her a certified letter, remove the shed or buy the land at a price that'd make her wince. She showed up at dawn, still in pajamas, screaming that I was waging property terrorism. I smiled. "No, Denise. This is ownership." Her house hit the market a week later, priced like she thought she lived in Beverly Hills. The listing avoided mentioning the wall or the shed, focusing instead on her charming kitchen countertops. Buried in the fine print, subject to resolving minor boundary issues with adjacent owner. She was trying to dump her problem on someone else. I had a friend in real estate pull her title history. Denise was drowning in debt, a home equity loan she'd taken out to fund her renovations, now ballooning with missed payments. Her house was worth less than she owed. She started playing nice, leaving me a peace offering of store-bought muffins and a note begging for a letter saying I'd negotiate access. I said I'd consider it, but I was already talking to a developer who wanted the shed parcel for a condo project's utility access. They offered me 15 times what I'd paid, provided Denise's shed was gone first. Then came her sneak play. A shell company, tied to her sister-in-law, tried to buy the alley parcel anonymously. I countered with an outrageous price, tying it to her entire lot. Denise lost it, banging on my door. "You're destroying my life," she yelled. I looked her in the eye. "You started this when you tore down my fence." The neighborhood was buzzing now. I posted signs on my wall. Investment opportunity, alley access parcel. The local gossip group lit up, everyone knowing it was Denise's mess. She called the cops, claiming defamation. The officer looked at my deeds, shrugged, and said, "It's legal." I gave him a soda and sent him on his way. Denise's final gambit was a quiet title action, claiming she'd used the alley for years and deserved it. I buried her in evidence photos of her gate, her trespassing, my cease and desist letters. At the hearing, her lawyer looked defeated before he started. The judge asked why I named the land Denise's Alley Memorial Lot. I said, "It's a reminder that actions have consequences." The claim was tossed. Denise vanished soon after, her house foreclosed, the yard a mess. I turned the parcels into a small community garden, raised beds, a bench, a sign reading "Respect the Line." Neighbors loved it, bringing plants and stories of Denise's antics. One said, "You didn't just win. You gave us back our peace." Months later, a bank letter listed Denise's assets, including exclusive alley access she never had. She'd built her world on bluster, thinking she could bully her way through boundaries. But I'd learned, a wall isn't just concrete. It's a lesson. And sometimes, the quiet neighbor holds the deed to your dreams.